As Old as Time, Part 3. There's something truly terrible inside. The beast continued to howl, always his first response when something terrible and confusing was bothering him and he couldn't literally reach out and shred with his claws. Disbelief, anger, and terror had full control of his animal mind, and it took all his effort not to run, shrieking into the darkness, away from the scene. Giving his animal side free rein for just a moment, he turned and bounded through the castle, past the dead suits of armor, up and up to the west wing. He had to see for himself. He hadn't looked at the rose at all since that night with Belle. In a strange way, he had sort of forgotten about it. What with the books and the making dinner and stories and finding out about Belle's mother. All of that to figure out how to break the curse that had turned him into a beast, and yet he hadn't given a second thought about the rose. But what was happening to his servants? His friends must have something to do with the curse. Before he even got to the table with the rose, he saw something that stopped him dead in his tracks. The portrait of the beast as a young man, as he had taken to calling the painting in the hall. It was an image of the man he should have been, with dark honey hair and fingers instead of claws and a broad, handsome figure. The picture he had tried to destroy and Belle had tried to fix. It now showed a beast. Not just the beast he was at the very moment, but all beast, snarling, slavering, and the oil paint swirled realistically. It looked like he was about to tear his way off the canvas and through the heart of whoever was viewing it. In one paw was a bloody white dove, its head missing. The beast fell back against the wall, feeling weak. This is what would happen to him eventually. Soon. His insides would match his outsides. He would be nothing more than that monster in the picture, completely devoid of human reason, thought, and consciousness. He covered his face with his paws, overwhelmed with the urge to weep. Hadn't she said this might be happening? Hadn't he felt it recently, if he was honest with himself? From that blackout he had experienced after Belle angered him, to waking with no memory of how he got the blood on his muzzle. Thankfully it was just a sparrow or another small bird, but it could have been anything next time, if he even woke up. He had been losing his temper more than usual, little things setting him off in a way they hadn't used to. The urge to hunt was stronger than ever, and he had barely been able to control himself on the run home, nearly overcome with a desire to run free into the woods. Slowly, desultorily, he moved into the bedroom proper. Now no longer really caring what the rose looked like, he knew in his heart the changes were becoming complete. It wouldn't have been so bad, he thought, if the beast he became was more like a real animal, a wolf or a horse, say, but then he could almost happily sink into oblivion, spending the rest of his days like a simple creature of nature, sleeping and hunting until old age or a bullet caught him up with him. But he wasn't a real animal, a natural animal. He was a monster whose heart would become ferocious and vile, bloodthirsty and out of control. His prey wouldn't be confined to rabbits and sheep. Despair rose up like a huge, inescapable tide. He sank down onto the floor. He'd never, ever be able to see Belle again. He couldn't, for her own safety. The thought of her made him pause. Before he was overtaken by the curse, before he became a full-blooded monster, he had to do this one last thing. He had to save her. He pulled the mirror out of his cloak. "Magic mirror, show me Belle," he commanded. With the silver-gray fog cleared, he nearly crushed the mirror with fury. Belle lay half-drugged and kicking feebly, strapped down on some sort of horrible table. An old man was shoving needles into her flesh while some sort of thug forced a bronze cone over her mouth. More men stood near the door, along with a frightful-looking hag who looked like she was enjoying the proceedings. The prince swore, thinking about the giant, impregnable stone building he had seen her taken to. There was no way, even in a full-on berserker mode, he could break in and disable every guard. He ran his paws through the fur in his head, frustrated. He couldn't do it alone. He needed help, and the servants were all unavailable. The only people around to help were the people in the village. The people the beast had long avoided, knowing that the insane hunters like Gaston would shoot him on sight, and the closed-minded peasant folk would run screaming. But they liked Belle, right? Despite what she had said about growing up lonely, she had a few friends, like the bookstore owner, and hadn't that man in the street shown some concern about her and her father? What it came down to was that he had no other choice. With a determined roar, he headed back to the village.